Spanish. That means that normally you have in the bottom of your screen a button where you can select the languages, so you can listen in the language that you prefer. And if you have any kind of issue, technical issues, there are some colleagues of mine, some colleagues from PCs in our cities that can answer to you in the chat. So please don't hesitate to send a message to them in order to inform them. And also, as you have just listened, there is a message that informs you that this session will be recorded just for internal purposes. So don't be afraid to share your thoughts and your things. We are between professional, and we will not use this recording session for any other kind of purpose. So welcome today, and I would like just to inform you that we have the chance to have a fantastic speaker. So we have decided with our colleague from PCs in our cities, we organized, and that I really thank them, we organized this webinar together. So we have decided to have a series of presentation, and then there will be a QA session where you will have the opportunity to exchange with the speaker. But because we are very a big number of participants, I suggest that you put your question in the chat, and then my colleague will take the floor or give you the floor in order to try to answer as much as question as possible. Here, as I say before, I'm very excited to inform you that today we will have the opportunity to talk and to have the presentation from 4 experience around America and Europe. So I will introduce and give you more detail about all the speakers, but we will have a presentation from the city of Edmonton in Canada, the city of Bogota in Colombia, Lille in France, and Tilburg in the Netherlands. So I will introduce any speaker just briefly when I will give the floor. I didn't introduce myself in one word, so I'm Carla Napolano, and I'm Deputy Executive Director at European Forum for Urban Security. And today, with our colleague from PCs in our cities, we have a very good collaboration between our organizations. I'm here with Rachel Locke, that she will give you, that she's the co-founder and acting executive director of PCs in our cities, and she will introduce a little bit the topic and also the reason why we are all together here today. As you see the title of the session, so we will talk about your recruitment in organized crime and illicit market, but we try especially today to better learn about experience and to see how we can make it transferable and how we can facilitate the knowledge and maybe inspiring other cities and other policymakers, local stakeholders, to try to develop a similar situation. The issue on youth recruitment is growing, unfortunately, everywhere in the world, especially in this moment in Europe, but also in other contexts. So it's why we think that it could be important to dedicate time to listen how you tackle on this problem, on this issue in your cities. So I really happy to give the floor to Rachel, and then take time and save time to listen to this experience, have time to discuss all together. So Rachel, I don't know if you can listen me. The floor is yours.
I can, yes. Thank you so much, Carla. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. My name's Rachel Locke, and I am, as Carla said, the co-founder and acting executive director of Peace in Our Cities, which is a network of roughly 30 cities around the world who are working together to reduce serious forms of violence in their cities through evidence-informed, rights-based, and justice-centered approaches. And as Carla said, we've been long collaborators with APHIS and are really pleased to be able to join you all today for this important conversation. So I was given the task of doing a very quick setting of the stage, so I will try to do that. I want to start with a quick anecdote, which is that last week I was in the city of Bristol in Western England and speaking with young people who were doing work with an organization that's a member of Peace in Our Cities. And because as adults, we have a tendency to overcomplicate things, sometimes it's useful to hear a less complicated version, which from this young person in particular was, we used to have safe spaces to do what young people do, which is to learn from one another, to take risks in low consequence environments, to engage in activities that test the bounds. And these included spaces at school, after school, on the weekend. And she said most of these spaces have been closed down as a result of austerity measures. And what this means is that there's a big shift, right, of people hanging out with nothing to do, being idle, much more easily made vulnerable to recruitment by those who would use this idleness, use this desire for belonging, for engagement, for some kind of authority, even for some risk taking, which we all did as young people, into antisocial activities. And if you combine that with the impacts, the lasting impacts of COVID and the pandemic, as well as the online space, it makes sort of this dangerous cocktail, right, of increased recruitment potential and complicated strategies. So that's just a kind of simple anecdote. If you close all the safe spaces, some safe spaces are going to open up. But let's shift from anecdote into a few points of fact here as we get started. So obviously, it's important to say all contexts are different, yet many contexts are facing very similar challenges. These include an increase in more harmful and deadly narcotics, an increase in strategies for recruitment that are using online spaces that are less easily detected or understood by those who would try to intervene, an increase in younger and younger children becoming involved in illicit markets, a crisis of isolation and loneliness that's been exacerbated by the pandemic, which hit young people particularly hard, and as I just said, can increase the risk of getting involved in antisocial behavior as a pathway to community, respect, and belonging. An increase in online spaces that sensationalize violence, so the recording of aggressive behavior that ratchets up violence. A deep sense of frustration and fear across society that's bearing witness to the alarming harms that are being caused by drug use and drug markets, and a real demand to do something about this. So what's important for us all to remember as we move forward in this conversation is that we're speaking about both highly organized, profit-making organizations that use violence instrumentally to retain control. In the EU, the 9 main illicit markets in 2019 generated between 92 and 188 billion euros. So big profits we're talking about here, with drug trafficking as the most common activity among these networks, valued at roughly 31 billion euros annually. Whereas in the Western Hemisphere, just in the US, Mexico, and Colombia alone, the value of narcotics-related illicit financial flows is estimated at between 42 and 101 billion US dollars a year, just among those 3 countries alone. So these are highly organized, highly profit-making, big dollar amounts that we're talking about here. But we are also talking about kids. We're talking about kids of as young as 10, searching for something, for autonomy, for power, for community, even something as benign as just something to do. And we're talking about them in the same conversation. So that requires a degree of responsibility on our part. A few more quick data points. In Europe, minors are involved in over 70% of illicit market activity, including drug production, cybercrime, human trafficking, and financial fraud. In Rio, the number of children aged 10 to 12 who entered drug trafficking doubled between 2016 and 2019. 10 and 12 kids. We're seeing across Colombia, Ecuador, and Mexico criminal groups enticing youth from financially unstable families through the promise of income, protection, and social status. So we're talking about these two things here, but it's really important not to get them confused. Our punitive responses must be applied proportionately and appropriately to the offending activity. Young people must be held accountable while not being over-criminalized. This requires highly skilled diagnostic, investigative, and judicial work. It also involves being careful not to feed into sweeping narratives or to reinforce biases. Really important to recall that language matters. Even what the term recruitment means is different. It could be forced recruitment, coerced, voluntary, formal roles, informal roles, etc. So we have to be careful about the words that we use and what they mean from, again, an accountability and a judicial perspective. So with that, I'm really looking forward to the conversation. Over the course of the next 90 minutes, we're going to dig into specific strategies, risk and protective factors, and share experience of what's been working and what hasn't across different contexts. And it's really important here that we remain clear-eyed about the spectrum of behavior that we're discussing and the opportunity for real, deep, meaningful change and transformation. So with that, Carla, I think I will hand it back to you to introduce our first speaker. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Rachel. You make in very few minutes the point about the discussion of today. So I really thank you, because we have a big responsibility to be clear about what we are talking, and to understand each other about the challenges and their responses that we can give. So it's why I was very happy to introduce our first experience, and Mr. Cesar Respreto, I hope that I pronounced correctly, that is a security and defense expert with over 22 years of experience in national and urban security policies. He had led strategy process at the Ministry of National Defense and worked with institutions like Security and Democracy Foundation and the Center for Strategy Defense Studies of the South American Defense Council. In 2019, he led the urban security agenda and pro-Bogota region. And since January 2024, he has served as Bogota Secretary of Security. And today he will share with us the experience developed in Bogota. So Cesar, the floor is yours.
Good morning to everyone from America, and good afternoon in Europe. I will speak in Spanish. I think there is an interpreter, yes, to make more agile the conversation. Then I'm gonna start now. Bien, buenos días a todos desde el continente americano, y muchas gracias por invitarme a esta conversación. Y yo observé las preguntas que estaban planteadas en la conversación y las dividí en bloques. Y entonces quisiera empezar por el primer bloque de preguntas bajo el título de ¿cuáles son los riesgos de reclutamiento para los jóvenes en este momento? En ciudades grandes como Bogotá tiene 8 millones de habitantes permanentes y 10 millones flotantes, se suman 2 millones en el día. Se pueden identificar claramente 5 factores de riesgo para que jóvenes sean reclutados o para el crimen o para el ejercicio de la violencia, que no necesariamente son la misma cosa. Para el crimen es una instrumentalización básicamente definida a tener rentabilidad de actividades ilícitas que pueden derivar en comportamientos violentos, y para la violencia son reclutados bajo criterios de generación de ejercicios de inestabilización, de desestabilizar la ciudad o de desestabilizar vecindarios, o incluso llegar a contribuir a una desestabilización de orden nacional. ¿Con qué fines? Con fines políticos, con fines criminales, o estrictamente con fines de generar anarquías en los cuales sistemas políticos y sistemas criminales se retroalimenten con un nuevo poder de afectación sobre la sociedad en general. Y en cualquiera de los casos hay 5 factores que son muy importantes que venimos identificando. El primero, que creo que es global, es la exclusión. Y la exclusión es una acción activa. Una acción activa, ¿por qué? Porque la sociedad misma pone a un individuo afuera del sistema social y lo hace de manera consciente o de manera inconsciente. De manera consciente cuando ese individuo no logra ubicarse dentro de unos parámetros o unos estándares que tiene esa comunidad o esa sociedad. Y de manera pasiva, a través de no brindar los canales de inclusión que esa persona necesita dentro del sistema social. Y todo lo que queda excluido queda al servicio de aquellos que necesitan capturarlo para intereses en particular, bien sean ilegales, criminales o violentos. El segundo es la no integración. Y entonces alguien podría decir que exclusión y no integración son sinónimos, que son la misma cosa. Sin embargo, desde mi visión, son completamente diferentes, porque la no integración ya también tiene que ver con las habilidades del individuo para hacer parte de la comunidad. Y adicionalmente, con los elementos que nos da la comunidad o la sociedad para que las personas puedan hacerse parte de. Un ejemplo que ocurre en muchos países de América Latina es la falta de identificación. O en el caso de las migraciones, por ejemplo, la migración venezolana, que tiene un impacto tan grande sobre América Latina, la debilidad en los sistemas de identificación y de reconocimiento dentro de las comunidades locales y nacionales de llegada no les permiten acceder a servicios sociales. Entonces no se logran integrar. Vuelvo, insisto, no exclusión y falta de integración o no integración parecen ser la misma cosa, pero son completamente diferentes. Son dos problemas con dos aproximaciones diferentes y con soluciones que pueden ser convergentes a la hora de buscar una resolución del problema, pero que sin duda alguna tienen que tener tratamientos diferenciales. Entonces, en la exclusión y en la no integración, lo que termina pasando es que queda una remanente de población, la mayoría joven, un remanente de población, la mayoría joven, que queda a disposición de aquel que quiera incluirlo o de aquel que quiera integrarlo. Y en ese sentido, por ejemplo, se puede ver mucho en movimientos de violencia extremista, grupos extremistas, como eso marca un factor muy importante de incentivo para el reclutamiento. Como no hago parte de nada, este colectivo extremista me hace sentir parte de algo. Dejo de ser invisible y eso me hace visible ante la sociedad. En tanto, para cerrar solo estos dos primeros, es integración como respuesta a la exclusión, a la falta de integración e inclusión como respuesta a la exclusión, lo que terminan es dándole al joven un valor y una razón de ser dentro de la sociedad en el marco de las leyes y en el marco del comportamiento pacífico, productivo y del imperio de la ley. Salidos de ese punto que tiene que ver con cómo el individuo y la sociedad interactúan para no quedar rotos, pasaría a uno tercero que tiene que ver con el uso del tiempo. El uso del tiempo se puede ver desde muchos puntos de vista. Mucha gente a veces lo circunscribe al asunto del empleo. Sin embargo, este no es un asunto exclusivamente de empleo, es un asunto también de el uso del tiempo libre. Y de lo que uno podría llamar también la ocupación en franjas de la juventud que permita que quienes están observando el comportamiento de los jóvenes para reclutarlos no les puedan llegar. Déjenme, utilizo unos segundos para explicar un problema que hay en Colombia, que es el delito de la extorsión, que no, me imagino que todo el mundo entiende el concepto. La extorsión es una intimidación a un ciudadano para obligarlo a hacer unos pagos a cambio de no ser ejercía violencia contra él. O pues, violencia psicológica, violencia física, violencia reputacional. En el caso del reclutamiento de los jóvenes hay unos parámetros muy parecidos y es que si uno llega, si uno es, recapitulo, en la extorsión, el extorsionista tiene éxito cuando viene y me intimida y en la intimidación yo no le cuento a nadie porque captura mi miedo y usufructúa mi miedo, le saca ganancias. En el caso del reclutamiento, el reclutador también captura la frustración, el miedo o la soledad del muchacho. Y al capturarlo es donde se mete en su cabeza y lo puede jalar a su actividad. ¿Por qué para mí es observable en estas dos dimensiones bajo un mismo parámetro? Porque cada que un muchacho que está o en estado de exclusión o de no integración o incluso incluido e integrado, pero solo, quien está acechándolo para capturarlo puede aislarlo y en ese aislarlo generar la exclusión y la no inclusión y reclutar. De hecho, en ese punto es donde el uso del tiempo juega un papel fundamental. Y ese uso del tiempo está no solo en cabeza de lo que él pueda decidir, sino que finalmente la sociedad tiene que hacer toda una análisis sobre qué es lo que significa el uso del tiempo en términos de protección de los jóvenes, de los niños y niñas, pero adicionalmente de construir un proceso de inclusión en la sociedad de largo aliento en el imperio de la ley y en la sana convivencia. Esto me lleva a lo siguiente, y es la falta de un plan de vida. En una investigación que hice hace años, tuve que leer unas entrevistas que se hacían en favelas de Río de Janeiro a miembros de las bandas que habían en Río y el ejercicio extremo de violencia. Y frente a esas entrevistas, cuando se les señalaba que el ejercicio extremo de violencia llevaba sumado la alta probabilidad de que la vida de las personas durara no más allá de los 25 años, es decir, que todos terminaban perdiendo la vida antes de los 25 años, la pregunta que hacía el investigador era, ¿por qué entrar en esos ciclos de violencia extrema si sabían que la muerte era muy cercana? Y la explicación de los entrevistados era que finalmente sabían que su proyecto de vida no tenía contenido, no tenía proyección ni perspectiva y que por lo tanto apostar de manera significativa a aumentar el nivel de violencia, ellos como actores principales, por lo menos hasta los 25 años les iba a dar unos retornos que hacían valedera haber vivido. Y eran armas, motocicletas, mujeres. Después de hacer esa lectura de esas entrevistas de Río de Janeiro, en un ejercicio que hice en Colombia en zonas de conflicto, encontré conversaciones con los jóvenes de la misma categoría. Y entonces, al no existir un proyecto de vida, al estar excluido y no incluido, y adicionalmente tener mi tiempo a disposición del mercado, por decirlo de alguna manera, la mayor rentabilidad está determinada en hacer un mayor esfuerzo por hacerme notar. Y la mejor forma de hacerme notar es a través del crimen y la violencia, que es chocante contra la sociedad. Entonces, no me integro, pero termino hecho parte. Y termino hecho parte en una forma mucho más poderosa y es generando temor y generando control, así dure poco. Finalmente, para ese individuo valió la pena durar poco, pero haber sido alguien y haber roto la barrera de inclusión, la barrera de integración que le generaba a la sociedad. Finalmente, yo diría que hay un quinto elemento, y esto uno lo podría desagregar mucho más amplio, pero pues el tiempo es limitado, y yo diría es la debilidad de las herramientas que le damos a los jóvenes, niños y niñas para tener resiliencia, para poder superar los momentos difíciles, para poder resolver problemas en sus etapas de niñez y de juventud. La sociedad avanzó durante los últimos 80 años en ir abstrayéndole responsabilidades a los individuos desde edades tempranas, responsabilidades adecuadas a sus edades, y terminó eliminándoles herramientas para resolver problemas pequeños y progresivamente irse preparando para problemas más complejos. E incluso, como sociedad en general, por lo menos en la parte occidental del mundo, también fuimos eliminando culturalmente la importancia de saber pedir ayuda, de levantar la mano y decir, estoy enfrentando este riesgo, necesito que me den la mano. Y al no tener esas herramientas de resiliencia, el camino de la ilegalidad termina siendo una forma de resolverlo, a través de gente que les ofrece protección. Y es una protección falsa en últimas. Es la historia del reclutamiento de niños, niñas y adolescentes para las guerrillas en Colombia. Entrevistando reclutadores de la guerrilla de las FARC años atrás, me decían que el target de ellos eran niños abusados en las casas, niños con problemas de violencia intrafamiliar, niños que estaban teniendo conflictividad con sus familias. Y que adicionalmente en esos abusos, violencia o conflictividad no tenían circuitos con los cuales ellos compartían eso para disminuir la conflictividad, guiarlo hacia una resolución positiva o incluso brindarle ayuda externa que permitiera disminuirle el impacto que tenían esos comportamientos o el riesgo que tenían esos comportamientos. Y el reclutador venía y le decía, aquí a usted no lo quieren, aquí a usted le quieren hacer daño, yo lo voy a proteger. Venga como nosotros, que nosotros somos su nueva familia. Si el muchacho está en medio de un escenario conflictivo, pero además no le hemos brindado como sociedad a través del sistema educativo, a través de la misma comunidad y a través de las familias y en los sistemas de gobierno, de herramientas con las cuales resolver problemas, caminos para resolver problemas, siempre habrá alguien que esté dispuesto a venir a ofrecer una respuesta, muchas veces la respuesta que no se quiere. También pasa con el caso del suicidio, cuando agentes que son dinamizadores de ideas suicidas, pero que nunca se van a suicidar, logran capturar personas en momentos críticos y dinamizarles la idea de tenerse que eliminar porque no hay otra salida. Y ahí uno empieza a ver patrones de cómo el aislamiento es un factor fundamental a combatir a la hora de parar el reclutamiento. ¿Quiénes entonces son los actores para frenar este problema o para poder combatir estos riesgos? Muchas de estas discusiones se centran en qué ha hecho el Estado. Y yo diría que lo que puede hacer el Estado es muy limitado. Porque, entre otras cosas, el Estado parte de esta pelea 10 kilómetros atrás del problema. Porque cuando el Estado lo dice, el ciudadano en general considera que o lo está engañando o le está trasladando el problema para otras cosas o no lo entiende. Por eso pensar esto como una respuesta de Estado es un error. Y esto es una respuesta que incluye 4 actores particulares. En primer lugar, las familias. En segundo lugar, las comunidades. En tercer lugar, los privados. Y en cuarto, el Estado. Y los 4 sentados en una misma mesa, generando vasos conductores entre cada uno que trasladen información y que visibilicen oportunidades. Porque, como les decía, proyectos de vida, herramientas de resiliencia, uso productivo del tiempo y empleo, inclusión e integración, no la puede generar ninguno de estos solamente. Y reconstruir el tejido social alrededor de una visión muy clara de proteger los jóvenes, porque los jóvenes son los que nos van a proteger más adelante, cuando estemos viejos, puede resultar una idea muy poderosa. Hay unas acciones también que son muy importantes a tener en cuenta. Así como yo tengo actores, tengo unas acciones. Y esas acciones son educación, es la que siempre aparece en los menús. Hay una que casi no aparece de la forma como se las voy a plantear, y es el servicio social. Entonces, muchas veces en esto aparece la conversación del servicio social como lo que yo voy a poner al servicio de los jóvenes, los niños y las niñas. Yo aquí lo planteo es como, ¿cómo vamos a incluir a los jóvenes, niños y niñas de nuevo en el servicio social? Como contributores en la medida de sus habilidades, capacidades y posibilidades, a servirle a la sociedad desde temprana edad, con lo cual se conviertan de nuevo en agentes responsables de la protección del tejido social cuando sean adultos. Y adicionalmente, en reconstruir la conexión entre adultos, jóvenes, niños y niñas, que es una conexión que está rota y que está rota en cierta forma por este aparatico, las pantallas. Adicionalmente, trabajar en el empleo. Empleo para niños, niñas y jóvenes, en muchos de sus países eso es impensable. Sin embargo, todos nos empezamos a preparar para la vida de adultos desde que dejamos la infancia temprana, desde los 8 años, de una u otra forma, a través de la educación, de una educación pensada para unas actividades, de una contribución con ese servicio social, y en ese sentido ser mucho más racionales en cómo los jóvenes van usando el tiempo de su juventud y su niñez de manera correspondiente con lo de cada etapa, porque no es saltar etapas, ni voltear etapas, ni acabar las etapas, pero entender cómo ahí los vamos a ayudar a que la ruta de inclusión sea también una ruta de maduración del ciudadano. Y finalmente, el uso del tiempo libre. El uso del tiempo libre hoy en día es individualista. El uso del tiempo libre hoy en día ha roto lo colectivo. Y ese uso del tiempo libre individualista, ¿se acuerdan que les dije el paralelo de la extorsión? Los deja solos a través de plataformas electrónicas, a través de redes sociales, a través de una cantidad de lugares donde solos son capturados más fácilmente e instrumentalizados. Volver a reunirnos es un antídoto muy importante para poder proteger niños, niñas y adolescentes. Y esto tiene mucho que ver con la violencia extrema, porque si los riesgos se consolidan en individuos y adicionalmente esos individuos son aislados, pues tenemos que, a través de juegos de video, de narrativas, de imágenes y de imaginarios, un muchacho que no tiene nada que ver con una expresión de violencia extrema, la acoge, se arropa y la integra dentro de su sistema de pensamiento. Y está pasando en
César,
muchos lugares del mundo. Ya voy a terminar. ¿Es eso?
yes, I'm so sorry because
2
we can have
minutos.
one, not more than
Bueno, ok,
one.
listo.
Okay.
Ok, thank you. Termino con esto. Medición, evaluación. Pues ese es un gran desafío porque creo que en su mayoría no tenemos cómo hacerlo. Parte de interoperabilidad de servicios de gobierno para enfrentar los factores que dinamizan este problema, que nos generen bases de datos que nos permitan empezar a anticipar y a prevenir. Adicionalmente, sistemas de alerta temprana en escuelas como fuentes de contextos e identificación de tendencias. Y adicionalmente, enfrentar de manera sincera la tensión que hay hoy en día entre libertad de actuación, free will, y control social. Son extremos que lo que termina es dejando solo a los muchachos. Tener información es la mejor manera de poder garantizar que alguien pueda ejercer sus libertades de manera tranquila, sana y sincera. Muchas gracias y perdón por la extensión.
No, thank you very much, Cesar. It's just because we have a so dense program and I will give the opportunity also to the other. But I will really invite all participants to put your question and using the chat for make comments if you want to share. You have touched so many points. So if you have experience, please write in the chat and then we will come back after the other presentation. So I jump very quickly and I give the floor to Emmanuel Ona, that is the director of a community initiative at Reach Edmond in Canada and the leading program to promote community safety, inclusion, and youth well-being. So very line about everything that we have discussed until now. And he's also the co-founder and vice president of the African Canadian Civic Engagement Council, supporting youth and their creativity. And his leadership has been recognized widely, including being named to Edify Edmond top 14, under 14 in 2024. So, Emanuele, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Carla, and good morning to everyone, as well as good afternoon to people who it's already in the afternoon for them. My name is Emmanuel Ona. As Carla mentioned, I am speaking to you from Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada. Whenever we start to talk, we like to, or we prefer to do a land acknowledgement. So I will start by acknowledging the land from which I'm speaking on. I want to begin by acknowledging that I am speaking to you from Edmonton, and Edmonton is on the traditional lands referred to as Treaty 6 territory, the homeland of Métis. This land is home to many diverse groups of indigenous people, including Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Inuit, and Métis. I also acknowledge that the city of Edmonton and all the people here are beneficiaries of Treaty Number 6, which encompasses the traditional territories of numerous First Nations, as well as Métis people who have called these lands home since time immemorial. Okay, and so for me, I will begin my presentation. I hope everybody can see my presentation.
Yeah, it's worked perfectly. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Sorry, just need to drag this out of my way. Okay. So to begin with, I want to start with a quick story. A 19-year-old young mother in our program she had every risk factor you could think about, and with everything stacked against her. With our support, she survived, or I would say not with our support, but she is a survivor of childhood trauma. She left an abusive relationship and lost a job. But with our support, she graduated high school, got her driver's license, found a stable job, and bought a car for her and her baby. In our program, she proudly shared that with us, showed us her car, which is a symbol of how far she had come at the time. Her journey shows what's possible when a community wraps around a young person instead of letting gangs fill the void. And as Cesar before me mentioned, recruiters exploit vulnerability and shrinking opportunities. So in Edmonton, we see these same dynamics in what the previous speaker has shared as to what's happening in his location. It's really interesting to see that this is nothing new to us as well here in North America and in Edmonton, Alberta. And then in Edmonton, we see the same dynamics, and it's moving even faster with social media and with gaming. In the next 10 minutes, we'll try to show you our collaborative response to this phenomenon, a relationship-centered, culturally grounded approach that builds durable pathways for youth back to school, to work, and community. So youth gang recruitment doesn't happen in a vacuum. It hits kids who are already hurting. Like many cities, European, South American, and same here in Edmonton, we're seeing that. And Edmonton faces more organized actors and more deadly drugs. Recruiters are exploiting our Youth Criminal Justice Act by pulling in minors who get lighter sentences or consequences because of the YCJ. Their tactics are sophisticated, obviously. They're encrypted. They use encrypted messaging and gaming to connect with youth. And we've also observed, other younger youth who are now actually recruiting much younger youth than them in safe spaces that we've created. So these youth are now starting to infiltrate safe spaces such as basketball courts, where we've actually tried to build a space for our youth to be away from from this type of lifestyle. These tactics land on top of the structural risks like poverty, family stress. So there's that intersection and that layer that's built upon. When half of our participants are dealing with mental health issues, and many have even had suicidal thoughts, you can see how easily gangs can step in, offering a false sense of family or protection. And these aren't bad, these aren't bad kids. They're just kids in a bad situation. No single agency can solve this. And we believe that here at Reach Edmonton. So our initiative, RAPED, is a true partnership. We have 6 core partners at the table, all the way from the Edmonton Police Service to Indigenous and multicultural community organizations. Reach Edmonton plays the backbone role. We organize the meetings. We make sure information flows. We conduct evaluation so that all the partners are rowing in the same direction. And I'll just give you a snapshot of how our partnership and our collaborative works. So police might refer a youth in their radar. So the Edmonton Police, for example, has a list that they call a Y50, which is the list of 50 most prolific youth here in Edmonton. And so they've identified them and they've refer them to us to provide that support. And these are youth who have, who have just really been interacting with the justice system more often than others. A youth worker from an agency like one of our partners, UCAN, will build a relationship with that team. If the youth is from a newcomer family, another of our partners is multicultural health brokers. They deal with more newcomer communities. And so a cultural broker from that organization who potentially speaks, their first language will work with the parents and the youth. This structure allows us to cover all the bases. So from justice, culture, family, mental health, you name it. And this builds trust between the systems and the community. Crucially, we focus on strengthening natural supports. So when our program steps away, youths that the community can remain, that community network can remain for the youth. And this is also from the onset of the development of our program was part of our sustainability strategy. So we don't force every youth into the same process on day one. Instead, we offer a continuum of supports. It might start with a youth meeting a youth worker meeting a 15-year-old in crisis. Maybe this individual is couch surfing and needs a safe place to stay. That worker does whatever it takes in the short term, to stabilize them. In parallel, if that youth's family are recent immigrants, then a cultural broker who understands their language and understands their customs and background will step in to mediate conflict, either with the person in community or at home. So once these urgent needs are met and trust is built, then at that stage we ramp up the support. Then this is where our wraparound, our high fidelity wraparound support comes in. So we literally wrap a team around the youth, probably bring in their coach, a school counselor, elders from the community, and bringing all these people together, we meet regularly. So we work with the youth. The youth's voice is centered. That's a key piece of this initiative, is that the youth's voice is centered. They set the goals. It could be like they want to finish school, grade school, find a job. And this team that we've brought together around them helps them make that happen. So the key for us is flexibility. Some youth are not ready for big team meetings right away and need one-on-one support first. So we'll meet them where they are. And our process, this is a three-stream approach that ensures that we provide, the right supports at the right time. So what actually changes for the young people? To answer that, we measure success far beyond just arrest rates. The numbers for us have been encouraging so far. Nearly half of our participants went from skipping school to attending regularly, and almost as many got jobs. So we've had young men who went through this program, get into the trades, apprenticeships, started their own businesses, even hired their friends to help them get out of trouble. One of our youth, told us that first time he felt proud to wake up in the morning. That is, something amazing to hear when you're dealing with youth. So a huge indicator for us is who they spend their time with. Over 60% of our youth have cut ties with their criminal peers. And we see tangible drops in their crime. And remember that the youth are referred to us by Edmonton Police primarily. And so they get to measure through their UCR score their interaction with these youth, and that's how we measure progress. But also from our agency side and our collaborative side, we also measure progress by interviewing this youth and tracking who they interact with. We also measure softer outcomes that are just as critical. We use standardized tools like the patient health questionnaire. Our evaluation shows that mental health improves and family relationships get better. But perhaps the most important change is the hope that is built within them and within their families.
Mhm.
We had an indigenous youth reconnecting with their culture, attending ceremony, and then saying that he felt proud of who he is. That is big success for us. And for us, part of this project, our program, is that cultural pride is a powerful shield against gang recruitment.
Emmanuel, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I'm so frustrated to be the bad guy, but we really run on time, and so can you do the last slide very, very quickly? 2 minutes, not more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, so I'll just go through costs. Basically, for us, our cost, our evaluation showed that our program saved all around the system, the justice system, and all over $1.25 million. And with our social return on investment evaluation, we saw a return of $1.36 for every dollar that was invested. What are the lessons learned? We try to tackle basic needs. So we're looking at things like hunger, food, addressing housing, addressing poverty. Those are things that are easy to target, and so those are areas that we start and that we try to address. And that is a good place to start for us. What's next for us? We're bringing in new programs to help build up the protective factors for youth. So through Peace in Our Cities, we connected with an agency in UK, Empire Fighting Chance, and with their support, we've been able to build that program here in Edmonton, and we've been deploying it here. So that's helping to build those protective factors. We're also going to into the healthcare system to try and develop a program around hospital-based violence intervention. And that's because sometimes some of the youth don't interact with police, but they end up in the hospitals because they probably get stabbed, shot, injured, or something like that. So that way we're capturing as much as we can. And then we're also focusing on capacity building for our team members ensuring that they understand what recruitment looks like, how it looks like, and what the lingo is. Also, how to support youth with complex needs. And yeah, I'll just like to end by saying that, RAPED for us shows that relationships, culture, and collaboration can interrupt recruitment and move the indicators that we all care about. So yeah, no single program fixes structural inequality, but cities can close opportunity gaps and blunt the pull of illicit markets with practical low-cost steps and shared measures. Thank you for allowing me to present.
Thank you, Emanuele. Thank you to resume very, very shortly the last thought. So I run to the next intervention because I would like to save some time for discussion. And so I give the floor to Stéphane Geldof, that is work from 25 years for the city of Los, and they coordinate, among many other responsibility, the Intercommunal Council for Local Security and Crime Prevention in 3 cities. And since February 2024, he has been the director of the House of Mediation and Citizenship for the Local Council for Security and Crime Prevention in Lille. And he also contributed to develop an experimental project called Limits that is focused on preventing youth involvement in trafficking for the municipality of Los and Lille. And I suppose Stéphane will speak in French. Stéphane, vous allez parler en français, c'est bien ça?
Tout à fait.
C'est à
Tout
vous.
à fait. Je vais me permettre de m'exprimer en français. Tout d'abord, merci pour cette invitation, hein. Je suis honoré de pouvoir présenter nos travaux à l'échelle internationale. Et puis, je pense que ça va faire écho aux 2 interventions précédentes, notamment les constats et facteurs de risque qu'exposait notre collègue de Bogota. Je vais vous présenter d'abord les principaux acteurs de cette expérimentation. Ensuite, je rentrerai un petit peu plus dans le détail, dans la limite du temps qui m'est imparti, et puis essayer d'esquisser quelques leçons à retenir de cette expérimentation. Alors, les villes de Lille et de Los, hein, puisque j'ai travaillé dans ces 2 villes, et dans ces 2 villes, j'ai pu participer à l'expérimentation limite, se situent donc dans le nord de la France. On est voisin de la Belgique et des Pays-Bas, où c'est des pays où effectivement il y a déjà la production d'un certain nombre de produits, et c'est effectivement des lieux aussi où il y a des ports cités souvent comme des lieux d'arrivage de cocaïne ou d'héroïne, notamment je pense aux villes d'Anvers et de Rotterdam. La métropole européenne de Lille, c'est 1 200 000 habitants. La ville de Lille est une ville-centre de 240 000 habitants, donc finalement une petite ville dans cette métropole, mais une ville qui est attractive, et qui, comme toute ville urbaine, est confrontée à la délinquance. Alors à la fois la délinquance endogène, la délinquance locale, liée en partie à la consommation de drogue, mais également à la vente, mais également à une délinquance exogène, donc qui vient d'ailleurs, puisque on est au carrefour on est un carrefour européen, hein. On est à distance équidistante entre Paris, Bruxelles et Londres, et donc on attire beaucoup de monde. Et la ville de Los, dont je vais vous parler aussi, puisqu'elle a fait partie de cette expérimentation et pour laquelle j'ai travaillé 25 ans, qui est une petite ville de 20 000 habitants, qui est voisine, limitrophe de la ville de Lille, qui est moins confrontée au trafic de stupéfiants, mais qui a été concernée notamment par un point de trafic assez dur, qui était d'ailleurs l'un des plus réputés pendant un temps au niveau national, voire international, dont la publicité de la vente des produits se faisait notamment via les réseaux sociaux, avec des résidences, des tours qui étaient tristement appelées tour de la mort, tour de la bœuf, et qui donnaient une réputation assez négative à la ville. Le principal acteur de cette expérimentation, c'est la MILDECA, donc la mission interministérielle de lutte contre les drogues et les conduites addictives. Donc c'est une mission qui est rattachée au Premier ministre, donc chef du gouvernement en France, et qui est chargée donc d'animer et de coordonner l'action du gouvernement en matière de lutte contre les drogues et les conduites addictives. Donc à ce titre, elle élabore un plan gouvernemental et veille à sa mise en œuvre. Et surtout, ce qui est intéressant, c'est que la MILDK a pour mission d'initier, d'accompagner des projets au plus près des citoyens, et notamment auprès des communes, des villes et des acteurs privés, en accordant des soutiens financiers et ainsi que de la méthodologie. Et donc, c'est dans ce cadre-là que va s'inscrire l'expérimentation Limite. Alors, les constats, il y en a trois. Le premier constat, il est factuel. On a la crise sanitaire Covid-19 en 2020, et ce qui provoque une crise socio-économique que vous avez tous connue et qui a accru la précarité dans les quartiers les plus défavorisés. Et de ce fait, l'attractivité sur les trafics de stupéfiants. Au niveau local, deux constats, un déni des acteurs de prévention sur les trafics de stupéfiants. Les trafics de drogue étaient un sujet tabou, aussi bien à l'école, où les responsables des établissements scolaires disaient qu'il n'y avait pas de problème de trafic de drogue, mais aussi un problème pour les éducateurs qui souvent évitaient le problème du trafic de drogue, car dans les échanges avec les jeunes, le sujet c'était, bon, bah voilà, moi, en participant au trafic, je gagne autant d'argent et je gagne autant que toi sur ton salaire mensuel. Ce qui a amené les éducateurs souvent à éviter ce sujet en termes de prévention. Et troisième constat, c'est qu'on disposait finalement pas ou peu de programmes ou d'outils de prévention de l'implication des jeunes dans les trafics de stupéfiants. Fort de ces constats, la NILDK a souhaité expérimenter une démarche qu'elle souhaitait évaluer et modéliser pour essayer dans la suite de pouvoir l'exporter sur d'autres territoires. Euh, pour cela, la MILDK a choisi des territoires, donc la ville de Los, la ville de Sarcelles en région parisienne, un troisième territoire qui n'a pas adhéré, et ensuite la ville de Lille qui, un an après, a intégré l'expérimentation. Les bases étaient un dispositif de prévention, donc on est bien dans une démarche de prévention, et je préciserai de prévention sociale, donc c'est-à-dire qu'elle était à destination des jeunes du territoire. Local, donc c'est-à-dire que la MILDK confiait le pilotage de cette expérimentation aux villes, et c'était pas un programme descendant venant du gouvernement qui nous imposait qui aurait pu nous imposer un certain nombre de choses. Et le troisième principe était que ce soit partenarial, c'est-à-dire que la ville devait travailler avec les acteurs du territoire, que ce soit institutionnel, associatif. La MILDK souhaitait qu'on travaille sur un certain nombre de choses, notamment sur le renforcement des compétences psychosociales auprès des enfants et des adolescents. Je reviendrai plus tard sur cette notion. Le promouvoir des parcours positifs et lutter contre les idées reçues sur les trafics, agir sur les parcours individuels des jeunes en phase de basculement dans les trafics, agir sur l'implication des familles et des habitants dans la prévention des trafics, agir sur le sentiment d'impunité et la banalisation des trafics, et enfin, agir aussi sur la consommation, la demande de produits sur le territoire. Alors pour cela, l'expérimentation a fait l'objet de conventions entre les villes de Lille, de Los, de Sarcelles et de la MILDK, conventions notamment qui permettaient aux villes d'avoir des moyens financiers afin de pouvoir mettre en œuvre ces programmes. Ce qui a permis notamment à la ville de Los de pouvoir recruter un chargé de mission dédié à la prévention de l'application des jeunes dans les trafics de stupéfiants. Le, je vais vous présenter la synthèse des feuilles de route pour les villes de Lille et de Los, puisque les programmes sont quand même assez conséquents. Donc, il faut retenir trois axes de travail. Donc, la valorisation de la capacité des jeunes en proposant aux professionnels des actions de développement des compétences psychosociales. Et là, ça renvoie à la notion de résilience qu'évoquait notre collègue de Bogota. Déconstruire les discours et conscientiser les prises de risques. Et le troisième axe était de soutenir les parents dans leur rôle de prévention de l'usage des drogues et la participation des jeunes au trafic. Alors, sur les compétences psychosociales, donc c'est une notion qui, je pense, est certainement connue à l'international, mais qui est fort présent dans les politiques publiques depuis quelques années en France. On peut entendre par les compétences psychosociales la capacité à mobiliser un certain nombre de compétences, notamment des compétences cognitives, psychologiques et émotionnelles, pour, dans une situation pertinente et précise, de pouvoir avoir les capacités à résoudre des problèmes, à prendre des décisions, à la créativité, la communication et les relations humaines et la gestion des émotions. Les compétences psychosociales favorisent l'adaptation à soi et aux autres et au monde. Il permet de renforcer chez les individus la capacité à prendre des décisions, à se mobiliser et atteindre ses objectifs, à réguler ses émotions et faire face aux changements, à communiquer et s'affirmer de manière adaptée. Et donc, on a identifié dans notre façon de faire les compétences psychosociales comme un facteur de protection face aux problématiques des conduites à risque. Donc, concrètement, l'expérimentation, elle s'appuyait sur des psychologues qui sont intervenus à plusieurs niveaux, notamment par la formation des professionnels, notamment des professionnels de l'éducation et du social, pour pouvoir mettre en place, avec l'acquisition de ces compétences, des projets, des programmes au sein de leur structure auprès des publics jeunes. Et puis, on a eu des programmes qui étaient, eux, validés scientifiquement, avec des noms anglophones, hein, donc le Good Behavior Game au niveau de primaire, donc ils font à peu près 8-10 ans. Alors là, un programme qui était adressé aux enseignants pour changer leur manière de faire en termes de prise en charge des élèves. Il y a un deuxième programme qui s'appelait Unplug, qui là était au niveau secondaire, donc pour des enfants de 12 à 13 ans sur la ville de Los uniquement. Et là, donc, c'était à la fois une intervention auprès des professeurs, mais également aussi des élèves. Le deuxième axe développé, c'est la déconstruction des discours et la prise de conscience sur les risques portés sur la participation au trafic de drogue. Ça s'est traduit par deux actions principalement. Une action pour laquelle on a utilisé le théâtre d'intervention. Donc la création d'une pièce de théâtre sur le trafic de drogue qu'on a pu déployer auprès des élèves de classe de quatrième, donc c'est à peu près 13-14 ans, qui impliquait les élèves dans une histoire impliquant des jeunes, hein, romancé bien sûr, mais avec construit sur des faits réels et qui permet toujours d'ailleurs, puisqu'on continue de le faire, qui permet de discuter, de prendre conscience sur comment on peut être amené à arriver dans le trafic et reprenant les facteurs de risque évoqués en début de webinaire, et puis surtout comment y résister ou comment se trouver des solutions et de l'aide avec notamment la participation des éducateurs de rue qui sont revenus plusieurs fois discuter de ces sujets avec les élèves. Et puis une deuxième action qui est la reconstitution d'un procès. Et donc là, avec l'aide d'une association qui est constituée de juristes, mobiliser des élèves sur la reconstitution d'un procès qui est rejoué ensuite au sein du tribunal de Lille. Donc là aussi, un impact assez important constaté par les professionnels sur la prise de conscience, aussi bien d'ailleurs pour les élèves que pour les adultes. Et le troisième axe sur lequel on a travaillé, c'est soutenir les parents dans leur rôle de prévention. Et donc là, ça s'est traduit notamment par des actions de groupes de parole spécifiques pour des parents dont les enfants étaient exposés au trafic de stupéfiants, tout au moins près au basculement et puis des suivis individualisés. Également aussi la mise en place d'un programme de soutien à la fonction parentale. Donc là, s'appuyant sur la notion de compétences psychosociales, mais dédiée aux parents. On a eu plein d'autres actions aussi qui ont été menées sur les parcours individuels, notamment avec des séjours de rupture ou un groupe de travail sur le repérage des jeunes en basculement, des actions avec des habitants sur des soirées de la réussite, notamment avec les centres sociaux, ou encore des dinner quiz qui permet de faire tomber les tabous et de pouvoir permettre de parler de trafic de drogue avec les habitants et puis aussi un certain nombre de journées de rencontres et de découvertes entre professionnels. Sur les leçons à retenir sur cette expérimentation, Déjà, la première chose, c'est de la prise de conscience et puis le fait que les professionnels se sont mobilisés, ont travaillé sur ces sujets-là alors qu'ils les évitaient auparavant. Sur la ville de Los, ça a créé une vraie dynamique, hein. 20 actions étaient programmées, 15 ont été réalisées, une chargée de mission qui a vraiment insufflé un état d'esprit sur ces sujets et la création de nouveaux partenariats. À Lille, le contexte était un peu différent. Uniquement 4 quartiers étaient concernés par le programme. Et la dynamique était déjà engagée puisqu'à Lille, les trafics de drogue sont beaucoup plus visibles. Ils sont présents dans l'espace public et la mobilisation était déjà engagée. Par contre, la notion de compétence psychosociale qui n'était pas du tout connue ou très peu développée a été vraiment un apport bénéfique pour les professionnels. Si je tente une rapide analyse comparée hein, sur
Stéphane,
les deux communes, oui.
pardon, réellement en 1 minute.
D'accord, ok. Donc je vais essayer d'être rapide. Donc, alors, grosso modo, pour finir en 1 minute, gros avantage, c'est qu'une dynamique est engagée. C'est ce qu'il faut retenir. Gros inconvénient, c'est que c'est un programme de prévention sociale. Et donc, en termes de prévention, on va être limité par l'évolution des trafics de drogue aujourd'hui. C'est-à-dire qu'aujourd'hui, les trafics de drogue sont si organisés avec des jeunes extérieurs de nos territoires. Donc beaucoup de mobilité, notamment via les réseaux sociaux, avec des recrutements qui sont faits. Donc nous, on reçoit beaucoup de jeunes de la région parisienne. Des jeunes de la région parisienne vont aussi jusque sur Marseille, donc ça bouge beaucoup. Et le deuxième sujet, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, les trafiquants utilisent des consommateurs comme guetteurs. Et donc, ça fait évoluer aussi les trafics et donc aussi à nous, à l'avenir, à faire évoluer ces pratiques-là. À savoir que l'expérimentation est finie pour Lille et Los et qu'on perdure un certain nombre d'actions sur des fonds propres et que la Mildeka a validé l'expérimentation et aujourd'hui, en 2024 et 2025, c'est 30 territoires supplémentaires qui développent le dispositif limite. Merci pour votre attention.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I see that there are some questions, and we will try to have the time to answer to all of this. And otherwise, we will collect it, or I can invite also the speaker to, if you see the chat, to answer directly. So I jump in the presentation now from the city of Tilburg, and I will give the floor to Obbe Visser, that is the strategic security advisor for the municipality for Tilburg. Focus on subversive crime and also advising the national program Livability and Security, working with vulnerable neighborhood. He has back in the police office. He has a background in the police force and public prosecution services, and he is here today with his colleague Rick Seulen, that is a criminologist, researcher, and advisor for Tilburg municipality, and is involved in criminal family project. He's also a PhD at Tilburg University, especially researching in historical development and local criminal networks.
Thank you very much, Carla. There is no interpreter available to translate Dutch into English, so I'll give it a try in English. My colleague Rick Keulen will tell you something about an interesting project which we have called Breaking the Circle. Its goal is to stop intergenerational transmission of organized crime in specific families. But I think it's important to tell you something about the Dutch context, because just like mostly every city in Europe, but I think mostly every city in the world are facing problems with vulnerable people in vulnerable neighborhoods. Problems are issues concerning education problems, poverty, employment, housing, addiction, problems with raising children, problems with domestic violence. And we are facing those problems for decades, and we are not very successful to tackle those those problems. So now we have the national program Livability and Safety. That's a collaboration between 5 ministries and 19 Dutch cities. It's an interesting collaboration on a local level. We're working together with housing corporations, police, schools, healthcare, well-being organization, and so on. And our goal is a broad, integral approach during 15-20 years. That's an appointment we made with the ministries, and we are trying to tackle those problems in vulnerable neighborhoods for the coming 50 or 20 years on each aspect of life at the same time. That's our goal. And besides the broad integral approach about prevention, then we have a specific program, prevention for youngsters. We are trying to avoid them for choosing the wrong path. We've called a program Prevention with Authority. That's also a part of the national program. It will last at least for 15 to 20 years. So we are trying to have a broad integral prevention program and a specific program for youngsters who are trying, who are having no perspective and who are willing to take the wrong path. Part of that Preventing with Authority program is Breaking the Circle, and my colleague will give some information about that specific project.
Yes, thank you very much, Huub. Is the PowerPoint presentation visible for everyone? I hope so. So as Huub already explained, we have the Prevention with Authority program in Tilburg. For our city, this contains 11 interlocking interventions. One of them is the Crime Family Exit program, of which I'm going to tell you a bit more about in a few minutes. But all these different interventions, they all cover multiple aspects of life. So for instance, we have interventions on the digital domain, some on the families, some focus more on the schools. So each and every domain of a youngster's life is being covered by all these projects and these interventions. And in this way, we try to provide them with a broad, stable basis for them to make the positive choices in life. All these projects have a combination of as well preventive as repressive measures. So we work closely together with the public prosecutor's office and the police. Besides all these welfare organizations that are more the softer side, so to say, the care side. And one of the most important ways of working is this always is customized to individual needs. So it's not that we're constantly putting out the same program for everyone. It's always a tailor-made approach. So when we look at our families and organized crime, our family exit program, as already mentioned, it's an exit program. So it's not a hardcore a crime family project. It's aimed at preventing the intergenerational transmission of organized crime or criminal behavior. And the program is voluntary. So what we see 9 out of 10 times is that the husband or the man in the family, he's the criminal actor, and mostly the women, the mothers, they want to get out of the criminal life. They want to have another different future for their children. And this is where we come in and we help them with this. Our focus is always on the children, always on families or households who have children in them. And the criteria for families to be included in this program are that there have to be multiple family members involved in organized crime. There have to be children in the household, of course. We need to have some concerns of welfare, safety, or development of the children. Sometimes children already show some delinquent behavior, and mostly these families also show intimidating behavior in the neighborhood. Our program is always aimed at bringing making families more resilient and having them more self-sufficient, and in order to participate in regular society and not being dependent on criminal proceeds. So 9 out of 10 times in these families, we see an accumulation of all these kind of problems, sometimes substance abuse, aggressive behavior, domestic violence, sometimes they're being evicted from the houses. for each and every problem, there is normally a professional involved sometimes. This can be police, this can be care organizations, educational professionals, or whatever. What we always see is that they all focus on their own problem and on one individual family member. And basically what we're doing is we're bringing a coach into the family. And this coach is like the central point of contact for the entire family and for all the professionals being involved in this family. And then we start working on a stable basis. So for instance, we need housing. We work on their financial problems, for instance, bringing some order in the chaos that normally is their financial administration. We need to often work on trauma-related problems, and it's not that our coach is doing this all by himself, but he is the one who will divert people, the family members, towards the right professional, and try to be a bit quicker than the usual long waiting list that we have in the Netherlands. So this is all aimed at creating a stable basis for them to eventually be self-sufficient. For instance, the children will be motivated to go back to school, and all the other family members are being motivated to either have how do you say this? Have a paid job or have a more useful something to do in life besides being criminally active. This project has been around now for about 5 years. We started out as a small pilot, and under the Prevention with Authority program, we've made it more durable. So we now have structural financing. We have intensified our collaboration with the police force, but also have professionalized our approach, for instance, by also hiring a behavioral scientist in our team. And everything's aimed at constantly learning through trial and error, and we keep expanding our program more and more. Our organization is actually quite simple. It's a very small, dedicated team that determines the strategy for each and every family. We don't try to make it too big in order to keep it compact and keep it more efficient. The coaches that we use are mostly independent coaches. They don't need to, how do you say this? They are completely dedicated to this team and to this task. They don't have any other responsibilities, so they're completely dedicated to this program. And a very important one, which especially in the beginning stages of starting up a program as this, that we've calculated some room for mistakes, and we got all the backing by our higher management levels and our mayor in order to be able, because we knew at the beginning, as soon as we start experimenting, that we would make some mistakes, and we didn't want to be shut down immediately. So that's why this is very important. It seems like a small detail, but it was very important for our program to have this support, so we could trial and error. And I tried to keep it as quickly as possible, since we already were way behind the schedule. So if there are any questions, I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to be able to do this presentation shortly in time. I know it's a particular skill for the Dutch people. So we have a little bit time for a question, and I would like to thank you, the speaker who has yet answer of the question in the chat box. So maybe what I suggest that I present to you, we receive a lot of questions also before your presentation and during. So I try to tell you some of these questions, and they give the possibility to each speaker to decide which question he wanted to answer, and also maybe if you want to add something that he has not the possibility to say during the presentation. So there are many questions arrive concerning how you measure the impact of your action. It's always a very tricky question. It's also always something very important. And especially, for example, someone asks how could be sure that the young people, they really cut the line with the gangs or with the criminal organization without have any dangerous effect for them or, for example, for the family. There were many people today, and even before, they talk about and some of you have mentioned this during the presentation, the recruitment through people who using drugs. the many criminal organization try to recruit this kind of people, and also push them to use more and more drug and became addictive. Is it something that you are confronted in your experience? There are questions around, for example, which kind of a policy change do you think could be a support for your initiative? Many of you are talking about the importance of partnership, to have many people around the table, to have also the support of the national or international and sometimes governments. That could be something that can help to valorize your effort and your initiative on prevention. There are also questions concerning many debate about the idea in some country to reduce the age, criminal age of young people as a solution to reduce their entrance recruitment in the market. What do you think about this? Some people also ask about artificial intelligence and many other innovation tools. How these tools maybe could be used to develop innovative solution, or at the contrary, especially on recruitment, on campaign or recruitment, sorry, on online. So there are only few questions that I have mentioned to you. And feel free to very briefly choose one of these or just make some thoughts in sort of conclusion before that I give the floor to Rachel to try to say a few words about this so rich discussion. Who want to start? Emmanuel, maybe, do you want? I choose a volunteer.
Sure. What question do you have for me?
If you want to add some thoughts, or if you want to react about one of these questions that I have just mentioned, maybe more on the aspect of measure the impact. You have talked about also very impressive, especially for the European results in terms of the cost. So you have the capacity to estimate. So I don't know if you want to react to this or any other question. And then Abba, I will give the floor to you.
Yeah, thanks. I think, like I mentioned, what we do is, and I've also answered that question in the chat, is looking at, other indicators like attending school. A big one for us is, continuing to interact with some of those more problematic people that get them in trouble. So those are things that we track through our police partners. They also log interaction with the police. So if they interact with these youth again, that is also considered a negative trajectory. So that's something that we look at. But then also participation in mentorship programs, going back to education, starting a job, going into entrepreneurship. These are, I think, normal things that I hope that everybody else tracks and that we do as well. So those are indicators that we follow. But also outside of that, I mentioned we also do the financial tracking as well, which is how much money is invested by the government or funders into these programs, and reporting back to them, for every dollar, what that impact is. Because I think there's this notion that, you can do a lot more with less, which we start getting into that austerity conversation, but we know that this work is very complex, and we need more boots on the ground. We need more resources to be able to untangle this complexity. And so part of what we do is to try to show the government how much we're saving on jails, how much we're saving on the healthcare system, how much we're saving on your everyday person that is being impacted by crime. For example, stealing somebody's car, that goes, that could impact their job and things like that. So those are all the pieces that we track. And I think putting all those together gives us sort of a better picture of the work that we're doing. I hope I answered.
Thank you very much for your answer. Do you want to react or to add something?
Yeah, I've seen some connections between the program of Canada and the broader integral approach from the Dutch city of Tilburg. Is it possible, Emmanuel, to receive your project plan? Is that possible? Because I've seen there are some interesting aspects for us to study about.
Yeah, we can certainly connect and exchange information.
Oh, thank you very much.
And we will try after this webinar also to facilitate and to share information with the participants, because we will be very frustrated. And I will ask to everyone to stay 5, maybe 10 minutes more, just to give the opportunity to Stefan. And I have a problem with my screen, so I don't see Caesar, so I don't know if it's a problem with mine. Just I would like, if you want to add a word and react. Stéphane, vous voulez ajouter un dernier mot ou réagir à une des questions?
Oui.
Allez-y, c'est à vous.
Donc, par rapport aux questions que vous avez posées tout à l'heure, hein, c'est ça?
Ou une dernière réaction de votre part, vu qu'on ne peut pas
D'accord,
malheureusement
ok.
dédier plus de temps au débat.
D'accord, ok. Donc alors, moi, ce qui m'intéressait, c'était sur quelle politique publique. Et nous, par rapport à l'expérimentation, ce qu'on peut retenir, c'est que le point de départ, c'est une mission gouvernementale qui nous a mis le pied à l'étrier. Mais toute la réussite de cette expérimentation, c'est qu'ils nous ont accompagnés sans imposer. C'est-à-dire qu'ils ont vraiment confié le pilotage, la gouvernance du programme au niveau local. Et donc, on a pu voir dans l'expérimentation sur les 3 communes différentes, les 3 villes différentes, que les 3 approches étaient différentes. Parce que le contexte est différent, parce que les ressources sont différentes, parce que les problèmes sont pas toujours les mêmes. Et la mission interministérielle a laissé le local piloter ses actions par rapport à ce contexte. Et dans le déploiement, puisque là, l'expérimentation, c'était 2021-2024, et donc depuis 2024, la MILDECA, donc la mission interministérielle, continue dans cette philosophie, c'est-à-dire qu'elle accompagne les territoires sans leur imposer. Alors, elle leur apporte des outils. Il y a un référentiel qui existe, un référentiel qui s'appelle donc Limite, qui donne des indications. La mission interministérielle accompagne financièrement, mais elle n'impose pas. Et ça, c'est, je pense, une des réussites de cette politique.
Merci beaucoup, Stéphane. I think that we have lost Cesar in the connection, so unfortunately we cannot have now their feedback, but we will find a way, and I will tell you one idea that we have in IFUS to continue to working together on this. So Rachel, are you ready for a very, very difficult exercise?
I am. I'm going to just make a few summary points to close us out. A 7 + 8 is my points, and I'll go through them relatively quickly to try to keep us on time. First, I just want to say a huge thanks to all of our speakers. Webinars never give us enough time to get really into the detail that we want. They're sort of frustrating for that reason, but I think this has been such an incredible taste test, if you will, or introduction to what is happening in so many different places, and also demonstrates what I said at the beginning, that there is difference across contexts, but also so much that is similar in terms of what we're all facing. So working together to help overcome these challenges. A few points that I heard from our speakers. Emmanuel, I love how you said this, we can close opportunity gaps even as we're continuing to strive to address broad social inequality that in many instances is really at the heart of what we're talking about. We also heard a lot about evaluation and measurement tools. We need to make sure that we're looking beyond just arrest data, data on criminality, on the court and the justice system. This is exceptionally important. We need to recognize deep levels of mistrust that may exist in particular communities for institutions, and that could be government institutions. It could also be non-governmental institutions. So we need to think about where that distrust exists and how we build relationships and work with various different actors to heal those relationships of distrust. Really important, this is a landscape that's changing rapidly, right? The drugs themselves are changing, the use of online space is changing, the movement of people is changing. So it's extremely important to invest in ourselves and our people and our team to be able to understand even what recruitment looks like, what are the tools of recruitment, et cetera. Also really important to understand people in the context of their families, of their social structures, their social networks. Individuals are not islands, right? So it's very important to make sure that we are treating people within the context that is so crucial to them and their healing and their growth. Also, in times of austerity, we are all facing shrinking budgets. Hugely important to keep a focus on the value of prevention and the cost benefit of prevention, and getting the private sector involved, having long-term plans. Again, we heard speakers discuss this, hugely important. The last point I will make is that not only are the drugs changing and the recruitment strategies are changing, but in many cases, we're also seeing a real increase in the scale and type of violence that is associated with these markets. So it's hugely important that we also understand how violence is being instrumentalized and used for control, for exploitation, for the installation of fear among individuals and communities, and that we tackle not just we don't think about this just as a illicit market or a drug market problem, but also as a violence problem, and focus on that. Lastly, I believe somebody will put into the chat the website for Peace in Our Cities, as well as our email address, our general email address. And we are more than happy to help facilitate connections if there's more desire for individualized conversation after the fact, as has already been expressed. Huge thanks to our colleagues at APHIS. Carla, I'll give you the last word, but we've been talking about this webinar for some time, and I hope it will be the first of several between our two networks. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you. And absolutely, we really hope, but we will do our best that it will be only the first webinar, and we will organize other activity. And it's why I would like to share, just before to thank you, everyone. The previous slide, I asked to my colleague if she can jump in this one, because we know that we need to show how it works. We need to create also a community where people who are working on the ground show that we can do and we can make the difference with our action. We have launched this idea of a coalition of cities and regions that try to promote their activity, but we want especially invite any kind of initiative, any kind of individual who works as our colleague in Peace in Our Cities, our colleague that has presented today, just to engage yourself, sign this call to join our force together and participate in this initiative, the Coalition of the Willing. We want to have a big community and try to show that we work together on this. We are not isolated, and Rachel resumed very well. There are experiences everywhere. We are confronted a very similar situation, and we do, and you do, a fantastic work on this, and it's important also to give some positivity in this moment where we talk only and always about the difficulty. There are solutions, and you spend your energy, your time to find the solution. So a special thanks really to our colleague in Peace in Our City. It's always a pleasure to work with you. So I would like really, Rachel, to thank you all your team, Flavia, Luisa, Sydney. I would really would like to thank you, the speaker, because it's so complicated. I have 10 minutes to show all your work. You have done an excellent exercise today, and it was so interesting. Have also different type of a scale of cities. We had metropolis like Bogota, and then we have a small city as Los. So there is also not only geographical difference, there are also scale of cities, but we can work together. And a particular thank you also to my colleague and my team, and to the interpreters that they made possible this exchange in different languages. They do so fantastic work. So, and a special thank you to all participants that take the time to be with us today for 1.5 hours. And you can, and Anna, can you put the other slide? Just no, the slide with the website of PC and Our Cities and issues, so you can contact our team if you need more information, and we can also share to you the presentation that was short today. So thank you very much, and have a nice morning, evening, whatever is in your country in this moment.
Thank you very much. See you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.